getting on airplanes. I guess some of them getting in a car to get back to the nation's capital here because, yes, the home district work period, known to some as recess, is over. And it wasn't a very fun recess either. As we've shown you multiple instances of town hall meetings going off the rails. That's, for Republicans, but some Democrats too, who were pretty angry about the way things went with the old CR as we walk out together here on the radio, the continuing resolution, right? The stopgap plan that avoided a government shutdown. Democrats did not want to play along, right? They didn't in the House. Then Chuck Schumer said they weren't going to do it in the Senate. And then they did it in the Senate. Chuck Schumer, of course, within 24 hours, changing his opinion from an op-ed saying hell no to a call for Democrats to join him. And of course, that's led to a lot of calls for either his removal as the majority leader or somebody to come along and primary him in a couple of years. He showed up on Sunday morning television, did meet the press, and he's not going anywhere. Listen.
Look, I'm not stepping down. And let me just say this, Kristen. I knew when I cast my vote against against the government shutdown that it would be there'd be a lot of controversy, and there was. But let me tell you and your audience why I did it, why I felt it was so important. The CR was certainly bad, the continuing resolution, but a shutdown would be 15 or 20 times worse.
And that's bad. That's where we start with Nathan Dean, who, as you know, is always running the odds here. Bloomberg Intelligence senior U.S. policy analyst. He brings us in off the ledge. He points us to the light and usually what the actual news is, because so much of this is bluster. Nathan, great to see you. Hope you had a good weekend. Welcome back. So he's not going anywhere?
No.
You didn't think he was going anywhere?
No, I don't think so, because look, Senator Schumer made a very tough choice, and it was a very unpopular choice with the Democrats, but had the government shut down, we'd still be shut down today. I think Elon Musk and the Doge Committee would have been very, very excited about the idea of a shutdown. And there was a lot of talk amongst the Democratic senatorial circles that had you shut the government down, 75% of the government workers would be deemed non-essential. They'd go home.
That's right.
How many of them would come back?
So
I think the thing for the Democrats to remember is that, we have an election, 18 months from now? So there's going to be a lot more news cycles to come forth over the next few weeks and months. That's where Senator Schumer is going to have to decide where the party goes to see if he is going to stay as the majority leader or minority leader in the Senate. But I don't think he's going to step down. It's not in his blood.
By the time we're done with this reconciliation process, no one's going to even remember this anyway, right? You think people in the midterms are going to be voting on what Chuck Schumer did about a CR that nobody could remember? Because before this happened, you told us if it shuts down, there's no off-ramp, right? We could be shut down the rest of the year. So what does Bernie Sanders, Ed Markey, and the rest of them want? Did they really wanted Chuck Schumer to shut down the government, or this is good politics just to say so?
Well, I think go back to 2010. It's almost like what the Republicans were dealing with back in the Tea Party days, where they said, look, we don't like what President Obama is doing. We want to fight. And then the established Republicans were like, no, we have to figure this out in a different way. We just can't go out there and fight. It's very similar to Democrats, the base right now, saying we want to go out and fight. I do think a fight is coming. I do think come September 30th, if we can't figure out how to fund the government another year, there could be a significant shutdown. At that point, the debt ceiling will most likely be resolved. We could be in the thick of a reconciliation debate at that point. But I think the Democrats are going to pick a fight. They're only going to do it when they can figure out how are they going to use this to their advantage. And March was not going to be that time.
Yeah. So let's talk about what's real here, and that is reconciliation. Lawmakers are going to come back into town. They got this thing behind them. And you've got a Speaker of the House who wants to see a vote done by Memorial Day, a Senate that's preparing to take the lead. What's actually going to happen in the next couple of months, or is this going to be something we kick around all year?
So we had an internal call this morning with some of the equity analysts, and I told them that, look, the next 3 weeks, you're going to see a lot of headlines coming out. So we're prepared for headline risk because right now the Republicans in the House are trying to figure out how are they going to pay for this $4.6 trillion tax reform bill. Is this going to be tax changes? Is this the Inflation Reduction Act? Lots of headlines. We still don't think that they can come up with the specifics, though, by Memorial Day. We think this is going to go into the summer. But the question is really for us is Medicare going to be impacted? And also, how is the Inflation Reduction Act going to be impacted? Think more specific targeted cuts than I think a broad repeal.
Okay.
But the second thing to keep in mind is the Senate is talking with the Senate parliamentarian at this moment about changing the baseline from a $4.6 trillion price tag to a $0 price tag. And if that's the case, it's going to raise all deficit raising in questions, and it's going to make its own difficulties to get through the House. But ultimately, we do think the Republicans are going to succeed on some form of reconciliation bill. I can't tell you the specifics, but I do think they're going to get there probably in the third quarter.
Interesting. This is why a lot of folks are thinking that, we may not have bottomed yet here in the stock market while we're risk on today. Nathan, I'm getting some headlines out of a cabinet meeting that we can maybe walk through together here in real time. Let's imagine we just got Nathan on the phone. We're calling him as his client. This is happening right now, Donald Trump in the cabinet meeting. We will be announcing cars and pharma, announcing car tariffs shortly, pharma at some point. Lutnick reiterating April 2nd launch of external revenue service. There's going to be more. They're rolling on this stuff right now inside the cabinet meeting. Does this add, when we see cars and pharma, uncertainty that we did not have this morning?
No. So
You
cars
saw
and,
this coming no matter what.
cars and pharma are two of the sectors that President Trump has been talking about for the last couple of weeks. That does not surprise me.
The
one
idea,
bit.
though, it could be more targeted than we were thinking, seemed to give the market a bit of a lift.
Well, and I think that's a positive thing from the broader market, but they were always going to target specific sectors. I mean, President Trump loves to talk about the fact that Ford and GM have problems or issues trying to sell in the European auto space. He does the same thing with American banks trying to go into Canada. But for April 2nd, obviously President Trump's going to make a big splash, Liberation Day. That's what he's calling it.
Right.
So you're going to see a lot of statements. You probably are going to see tariffs go into fruition that day under the International Economic Emergency Act. So tariffs are coming. They're going to be more secretarial and more specific, but also don't be surprised, probably in this automobile maker case, that President Trump also announces another investigation and it kicks the can another 2 to 3 weeks. I'm just saying that, I think it's going to be a combination of both. I think there's going to be certain areas that they're going to hit immediately, and there's going to be other areas that they're going to say, we're going to do another investigation, because President Trump comes out with these statements. It's a very shocking statement, but there's a negotiation period, and somehow it's walked back. But the thing we are telling our clients is that incrementally, these tariffs are coming, and once they come on, they're very difficult to come off.
Boy. So what does the client say to you at that point? Where it's like, well, geez, Nathan, I don't know if you helped a lot. So I can count on these. But even if there's a delay in an investigation, I don't know if I can count on these. We're still in a world of uncertainty.
Well, the question you have to answer is, what do you think those other countries can give in return? And so in the automobile space, think of it this way. If President Trump puts secretarial tariffs on automobiles, there could be something that the European Union in particular comes back with and says, look, we want to negotiate that in particular.
Yes.
I know I'm not being very helpful in terms of specifics, but you have to game out this idea here. And what we tell our clients is plan for a couple of things. One, plan if these tariffs are going in that day.
Okay.
If they're going in that day, obviously negative reaction, you're going to have to respond to it.
Right.
And then those tariffs are going to kick in right now, and it's going to go over the next few quarters. If there is a negotiation, if this is an investigation of a type of tariff, you're looking at probably about a 30-day extension to that. And within those 30 days, you're going to be in the same spot that you are right now. But ultimately, some form of these tariffs are coming. It's just a matter of what exactly is the scale back of that? Right. Is it more kick the can? But President Trump has shown no desire to actually walk back from this tariff fight. All he does is kick the can a little bit longer.
Delay it.
But eventually there will be a point where these tariffs come on.
Is there a boy who cried wolf date on this at some point, though, where the market says, all right, we're going to get on with our lives here?
There is. And we've had that question from clients all the time.
Yeah.
Literally just last week, we had a client from New York call up and say, is this a boy cried wolf mentality? And look, there is going to be some type of thinking. But if you prepare for the boy cried wolf mentality, you're also the one that's probably going to get eaten by the wolf, if the wolf shows up.
Wow.
So I would just say that, everybody has to make their own decision when it comes to this. But for us, we go back to this pattern of shocking statement, type of negotiation, some form of scale back, but incrementally the tariffs get larger and larger.
This is great analysis, as always, with Nathan Dean. The Bipartisan Policy Center raised its hand over the weekend. X date. Not quite as bad as we thought, right? Somewhere, this is like the cable guy, from mid-July to early October, it predicts. Now, we're going to get an actual CBO forecast on Wednesday. Are these market-moving headlines?
No, I think most people are taking two views here. One is the X date most likely be in August, late July or August. Our chief rate strategist, Ira Jersey, has that as his belief as well. But we also won't know the true manner of the X date until after April 15th. We have to see what those tax inflows are. So after April 15th, both the Bipartisan Policy Center, Bloomberg Intelligence, all these other folks are going to come up with a much more targeted X date. But that X date is going to come this summer. Whether it comes July or June, hopefully not during August recess, but, we'll have to figure that out. But, the debt ceiling, raising the debt ceiling is going to be a bipartisan manner. We don't think it's going to go through reconciliation. And we're putting around an 85-90% chance that the debt ceiling will be raised. I just don't think there's any really desire to really have much of a fight.
It's just a question of by how much, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Are we talking $4 trillion or more or less? Where are you?
I think President Trump doesn't want to see the debt ceiling one bit. I think President Trump would be easily happily to mint the coin. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this gets pushed off to beyond his administration.
Can we do a whole bunch of stories about minting the $1 trillion coin again? Is that what you mean? Is that what we're going to do?
We're not going there yet.
I missed
but
that.
We're not going there yet, but in a worst case scenario, leave that option open.
I miss Stumpy and the $1 trillion coin. By the way, did you see cherry blossoms set to peak the end of this week? They're coming out early. The Stumpy tribute in your office is going to have to come back on the air at some point here. This is an important part of our narrative surrounding Nathan Dean. If you don't know Stumpy, Google it. It's a big thing here in the nation's capital.